Do you struggle with the ribbon woes? I think we all do. Hi, everybody. It's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com, and I am back with the final video in my master class on ribbon. So during the month of July 2021, I've been sharing with you some different videos on how to tie ribbon, how to create faux bows, different things like that. And today, I'm going to share with you 10 secrets for working with craft ribbon, what to do with the leftover ribbon pieces, how to get those ribbons to stick to your cards without falling off. I have got some really incredible secrets to share with you. I think you're going to enjoy what we're going to talk about today. So let's go over my 10 favorite ribbon hacks. So how about the first one? Whenever we want to add ribbon to a card, sometimes it can be a little fickle. It wants to move around. So I've got a couple notch ideas that I think you're really going to like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my ribbon here, kind of get a general idea of where I want it to go. How about right there? That works for me. And I'm just going to put a little tick mark. You notice I've just got my ruler kind of lined up. Don't worry, I'm going to be trimming away my tick marks. I'm not going to see them, but that at least lets me see the line. All right, that's what we're going for. I'm going to bring in my everyday label punch. And we're going to use this little tiny notch. We're just going to take just a little notch. And it's a great way we get to use a punch that we already have. And look at that, we get a little notch. Let's repeat that over on the other side. Look at that, perfect little notch. Now, when we go to tie our ribbon onto our card, do you see it just sits right inside that notch? And now we are going to give this ribbon a little twist. This is a reversible ribbon. Actually, I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit in the video because I had somebody ask me, how do you tie reversible ribbon? So we're going to talk about that too. But there you can see, look at that. That is on my card. I do not have to worry about it falling off. It is notched on there. That is one of my favorite tricks for adhering ribbon. Now, do you see that this is a little loose? Maybe you don't like that. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come in with a mini glue dot. I'm going to use my take your pick tool to just pick up that mini glue dot. I can come in underneath. Do you see what I'm doing? Just adding it right underneath. Give that a press. Oh, that thing's not going anywhere now, is it? So not only did we notch it, and of course it kind of adds a little bit of dimension to the card as well, but in case you got your ribbon a little loose, it happens, right? Well, that little glue dot is going to hold it in place and you don't have to worry about it sliding around. I'm going to flip this around, and what if we wanted to do holes? We can use the detailed trio punch. So let me show you how we're going to do that one. We're going to basically do the exact same thing, and we're going to give ourselves a little notch or a little dot here just so we can see. And now we can come in. I'm going to flip this over because I want to be able to see. Flip it upside down because we're going to want to punch it this way. So there's my little tick mark. So I'm going to line it up in the punch, right? Because we want to make sure it's there in that circle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it in as far as it'll go. Give that a punch. So there is one of my little notches. Now we'll come in to the other side, line it up. And now with this ribbon, we're going to run this through the holes. We can simply tie it again here in a knot on the side. And there we go. Now we have these cute little notches in our card. And by the way, yes, my tick mark is showing. I really probably would not have recommended that you do it in pen, do that in pencil so that you can remove that one. Here, I wasn't too worried about it. I knew I was notching it off, but here, probably better off to go with a pencil. So there's two different ways that you can use punches to adhere your ribbon. I also promised you some tricks for working with reversible ribbon. This is the Blushing Bride metallic ribbon. Do you see how it's shiny and satiny on one side, but look at the other side. Ooh, pretty metallic-y, right? Well, the thing is when we tie it, it can twist and we can get metallic on one side, shiny on another. So here is my trick for that. So let's say we want the metallic edge to show. So what we're going to do, I'm going to do a square knot. So I'm just going to wrap that around my cardstock. I'm going to go right over left and under, and we're going to give that a pull. Remember how we kind of give that a nice little tight pull. Now we're going to go left over right and under. And when we do, I'm going to pull just a little bit just to kind of get it started. But can you see we have the satin showing, but we've got a metallic knot here in the middle. So all we need to do before we go any further is to just twist the tails, give them a twist. And remember how we only pull what's in our left hand? We'll give that a pull. And again, if you have to, just give it a little further twist. And there we go. Now my metallic is showing on all sides. And again, remember, I've said it before, you can manipulate that ribbon. And then we can just get that, trim that down. And now we have metallic all the way around. Now the same is true for tying bows. Remember our little trick where we just make the two bunny ears and we tie them together? So we're going to tie those two bunny ears together, and you're going to see instantly that I'm going to have a satin on one side and a shiny on the other. Well, we're just going to give this a twist, and you're actually going to twist kind of far because we want to give this a tight pull, but we want that ribbon to stay in place. Do you see what we did there? I just twisted it kind of towards the back so that when those loops in my bow kind of get pulled and they get pulled tight, it kind of forces that ribbon to lay down correctly. Now, earlier you saw me use my mini glue dots to hold that ribbon on. Well, let me show you another technique where I use my mini glue dots. So let's say I'm trying to tie some ribbon and I don't want to notch it. Nope, just not in the mood to notch it. So I'm going to want to tie this here onto the side of my card. And as you're working, let's just, oh man, I can't get that to stay in place. I just don't know where I want it to go. So this is my tip. So I'm going to hold that there for just 1 second. You can go ahead and have this glue dot ready before you get started, but I'm going to pick up a glue dot. I'm going to line up my ribbon so I kind of know exactly where I want it to go here on my card. I tend to always go on the right side. Don't ask me why. So what I'm going to do, remember I told you how to give it a pull? Go ahead and do that. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to come in underneath here. I'm going to drop that mini glue dot. Watch this. I'm going to give it a press. Look at that. I'm not fighting. Oh, I can't hold on to it. No, it's good. It is secure. It is going to stay there while I work. Because now when I go to finish out my bow, I don't have to worry about that ribbon being tight because I know it is, because that glue dot is holding it in place. Now, actually, it's kind of funny that it happened this way. Do you see this little twist in my ribbon? Well, that can happen too. So I am kind of glad it happened. I've said before, you can manipulate ribbon really, really well. I just gave it a little twist. Let's tighten that up again. Look at that. Now the ribbon is nice and flat again. Yeah, just give it a little twist. Don't worry about it. As I like to say, tell that ribbon where you want it to go. Okay, now another trick I want to share with you is how to add a strip of ribbon going down your card, because sometimes we just want to add the look of ribbon, but we don't want any of the bulk, right? Well, for that, we're going to use some tear and tape. This holds ribbon in place so well. And what I'm going to do is just lay my tear and tape right across my cardstock. Remember, you can tear it, you can cut it. For this one, you know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and just tear it, make it a little bit easier to work with here. You want to kind of give that some pressure, hold it into place there. And there's a couple different ways that you can do this. So I left this piece long and this piece short. I did that because I want to teach you a trick. If you wanted to just lay the ribbon down, so let's do that. Let me just peel this away. You want to make sure you're just getting that backing paper. And I'll tell you what, I'm just going to kind of leave that paper there on the end for just a second. So what I'm going to do is line up my ribbon right on that tear and tape. And you can see, boy, it is nice and secure. We trim off the edge. And there we would have where we have just attached ribbon to the card. And look at that, nice, flat, so perfect for mailing. But what if you wanted the ribbon to wrap all the way around? You wanted it, you don't want that rough edge, you want a nice cleaner edge? Well, we left this one longer, right? And you see how that ribbon can just come back around? You can press it down. So there we have a method for having a nice clean edge. Here you can just cut it, but do you see we have a nice flat piece of ribbon? So we still get that great look, but we didn't have to have, any bulk. Tear and tape, awesome stuff. Let's circle back to our glue dots. So let's say you wanted to add a little bit of ribbon, but you didn't want to adhere it down, or we've got a real sheer ribbon. Maybe you don't want quite as much, if any of that ribbon or the tear and tape is going to show. How to adhere down a little piece of ribbon onto a card. I'm going to cut that just a little bit longer than my card. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to press one end of my ribbon onto a glue dot. I'm going to line it up here on my card and flipping it under, I'm going to adhere that end. Now I can come along here. You can also add the glue dot there directly onto the cardstock, whichever one. And that is another great way. Oh, here we go. It got on crooked. It happens, right? Not a big deal. We can come in. Remember, it's on the back. So we can lift that, and then we can just reset it. Now, let's say we wanted to add a bow to this. Well, we could come back in with that ribbon, slide it under. Remember, this one's not taped down. So you have the ability, you could come in with this ribbon. Remember, we just adhered this on the back. So we could tie it just in a pretty little knot here on the side. We could tie it in a bow. But if you struggle with those bows and you'd rather make them separately, how are we going to add this bow? Well, we're going to come back in with the mini glue dots. So 99% of the time, this is how I would add a bow or a ribbon knot to a card. You take the knot of the ribbon, give it a press onto the mini glue dot. When you lift, it's going to stay right there, and we can add that right there to our card. Easy peasy. I'm telling you, these things are awesome. Now, what if you had a card, let's try something like this, and we wanted to add a little linen thread bow? Well, that glue dot is a little bit thick. So this is my next little trick. You're going to take that glue dot, and I'm just going to, you can kind of roll it even right here on the paper, but we're going to roll it into a tiny little ball. You don't want to overwork it because we want to keep that sticky. So I hope that you can see we got that teeny tiny little ball of glue right there. And now we can add our linen thread bow. Give that a press. Now, when I press this down, I also want to de-stickify anything that might be peeking out, because it can happen, but we don't want it to stick to the envelope or anything like that. So that is how I use a mini glue dot to adhere really fine, like the linen thread or the baker's twine. Same thing, it's a very thin, it's not as thick as ribbon. And so you're going to want to use that rolled up glue dot method for that. All right, so has this happened to you? You're working on a card, you get a little ink on your fingers, and then, oh no, it's on my card. What am I going to do? Well, first, you're going to join the club because this has happened to me 3 times today. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to come back in with a bow. We're going to come in with the glue dots. Let's cover up that boo-boo. We won't even see it. Boo-boo, be gone. Yep. You could also do that with just a little ribbon knot if you wanted to, if you felt this was too big. Probably want to trim that down. And look at that. No, we have no more mistakes, do we? No, it is gone. A little ribbon and a mini glue dot can solve a lot of problems, my friends. Scraps, ribbon scraps. Oh my goodness, I have a million of these. Well, you just saw whenever you're trimming off the little ends, these are a little too small. But sometimes when you have those little bit bigger ends, I'm going to show you how to make what I like to call a little scrap bow. I've got some baker's twine here. This is from the baker's Twine Essential Pack. I'm just going to create a loop, just a simple, you know, little loop. I'm going to put my ribbon inside my little ribbon scrap. Let's give that, I'm going to center it up as I go. When I'm good and centered, we're just going to give it a tug. Now, baker's twine can be forgiving. I'm going to go ahead and double knot it because I want to make sure it doesn't start to loosen on me. Give that a good tug. Now, we can leave these tails here. We can trim them off, right? You could just trim them down. You could also even come along and tie it in a bow. You could add, that'll kind of give you a little extra layer. Look at this. We don't want the bow bigger than the scrap, so we'll kind of come down little with it. And now we can just trim off that excess. And look at that. That makes a sweet little bow, doesn't it? And like I said, you could just trim all of that away and you could just have just that simple little knot. But it's a great way to use scraps. We hate to lose scraps, right? All right, one last little tip for you, and that is on mailing cards with bows. So sometimes, let's face it, they can be a little bulky. And a lot of times the post office gets a little finicky about that, right? So my tip is when you're putting the card in the envelope, I try to put the bow as far down as I can, knowing the postmark is right here. So right here in this corner, I want to keep as much of this corner free from bow as I can. So I'm going to put it down on this end. And then another trick that I have is to add another piece of cardstock. Just some scrap cardstock. It can match. I think that looks nice, but if it doesn't, don't worry about it. It's just there to protect your card so that when you mail it, it kind of adds that little extra layer of protection here from the post office's machine when it goes through. And again, here's my postmark, but my ribbon, my little ribbon bow is right down here, kind of out of their way. So many great ribbon tips today. We learned how to notch or punch holes in order to hold our ribbon. Remember here, we used a mini glue dot before we tied it in a knot to help hold it in place while we worked. You can use tear and tape or glue dots to adhere ribbon down, just to add the look of ribbon without adding bulk. Oh, here's where we did a little ribbon scrap. We covered up some mistakes. We always love that. And of course, we learned how to roll up the mini glue dots so that we could add very thin ribbon, whether that's the linen thread or the baker's twine, to be able to add those little bitty things. And of course, we also learned how to protect our cards in mailing so that the post office can continue to love us and want us to continue to send happy mail. Guys, so many fabulous tricks today. I hope that you enjoyed it and you learned a new trick or two. Thank you all so much for being a part of the video today. Hey, if you enjoyed the master class, would you give me a thumbs up on YouTube? I always appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed, my goodness, take a minute to click that great big red subscribe button. Let YouTube let you know whenever I'm back with a new video. And in August, I will be featuring a brand new master class you're not going to want to miss. We're going to talk about designer series paper. I look forward to stamping with you guys soon. Make it a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.